Hello everyone. So today we are going to be continuing our Empires A to Z series by looking at a scenario where Algeria forms an empire. Algeria is a nation located in the Maghreb region of North Africa. It is dominated by the Atlas Mountains in the north and the Sahara Desert in the south. It has a population of roughly 45.4 million people and it's the 58th largest economy in the world. Despite being listed as a not free autocracy, Algeria is a fairly stable country, thanks to its economy being highly supported by hydrocarbons and having the second largest military in Africa. So what does that mean? I for once don't have to do a lot to fix the nation forming an empire. So let's get on with it and make Algeria into an empire. While Algeria might be mostly stable, much of the Maghreb and Arab world is not. This is evident as the second Arab Spring hits a new, darker period, as record inflation and high youth unemployment leads to mass protest and riots in many North African countries. While Algeria is able to shrug most of this off by increasing public spending, several nations are not so lucky, and a string of regime changes takes place. In particular, Tunisia's civilian government falls to a populist military coup. Following the military coup in Tunisia, Algeria and much of Europe condemned the new military government. This leads to the Tunisian junta seizing the Trans-Mediterranean pipeline and cutting off all gas exports to Italy and southern Europe. Despite diplomatic efforts being made to reopen the pipeline, Tunisia refuses and Algeria decides to invade Tunisia. Algeria begins its invasion by attacking along a line from the Mediterranean Sea to the Château El Djerid. Algerian forces overwhelm the border defenders and take the towns of Beja, Kasserine, and Gefsa. The Algerian army then starts to push on Benzart in Gabus. The Tunisian army begins its own counterattack that retakes Kasserine. Algeria's southern force takes the town of Gabus and pushes north to take the port city of Sfax. The Tunisian counterattack at Kasserine runs out of steam, and the Algerian army retakes the initiative to drive the Tunisians back to Kairouan. The Algerians take Benzart and push on to the northern outskirts of Tunis. After taking Sfax, the southern front turns north and helps take Kairouan and Susa. All three columns surround Tunis and begin operations to secure the territory they had bypassed. With their supply lines secure, Algerian forces push into Tunis and take the city. Tunisia then capitulates and Algeria annexes the country. As the Second Arab Spring saw regime change in Tunisia, its effects were felt in Libya by its inability to hold elections in a timely manner. This has resulted in Libya falling back into a civil war. Now 4 groups control the nation. The Egyptian-backed Libyan National Army, based out of Benghazi, controls the eastern half of the country along the Mediterranean. The Libyan Alliance for Peace, based in Tripoli, holds the highly populated coastal section around Tripoli. The Alliance of Libyan Tribes based in Saba controls much of the sparsely populated Libyan Sahara, and a resurgence of the Islamic State controls the areas south of the Nafusa Mountains and a good portion of the Gulf of Sidra coast. As the 4 sides attempt to gain control over Libya, the Islamic State uses the lack of security to commit attacks against Algeria. This forces Algeria to come to a decision on how to secure its border. With little other choice, Algeria decides to pick a side and intervene in Libya. Algeria's first move is to contact the Libyan Alliance for Peace to form a partnership. The government in Tripoli quickly takes the support and aligns itself with Algeria. Algerian weapons and troops flood into the region around Tripoli, securing the region. With a base of operations to begin from, the Algerians coordinate their first offensive against the Islamic State by attacking south and east to take the towns of Ghadames, Mizda, and Abu Ghrain. From there, the Algerian army rapidly pushes its offensive to take Qaryat and Ash-Sharif. From there, they split their attacks into 2 prongs, one towards Wadan and the other towards Sirte. With Wadan taken, the entire front line focuses on enveloping Sirte. At Sirte, a long, bitter siege starts, but the Algerians eventually take the critical town and destroy any organized Islamic State fighters in the region. Following the destruction of the Islamic State, Algeria and the Libyan Alliance for Peace now govern 2 out of every 3 Libyans in the nation. With the tide fully in its favor, Algerian diplomats contact the Alliance of Libyan Tribes to discuss a union of the 2 factions. The Alliance of Libyan Tribes agrees, and the Libyan Alliance for Peace grows stronger. In a surprise move, Egypt approaches Algeria about a ceasefire between the 2 remaining factions in Libya. Wanting to keep peaceful relations with Egypt, Algeria agrees, and both sides meet in Paris to decide the future of Libya. At the peace conference, both nations decide to carve Libya into 2 nations, the Republic of Tripolitania in western Libya and the Arab Republic of Cyrenaica in eastern Libya. Both nations are little more than puppet states of their primary backers. On the southern edge of the Sahara, a regional crisis is forming. Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have all recently undergone successful coups with their governments being replaced by military juntas. The three military juntas declare a military alliance called the Sahel Confederacy and withdraw from the Economic Community of West African States, or ECOWAS. Citing that this was an illegal action by unrecognized forces, ECOWAS begins a limited military intervention into the region, utilizing forces from Senegal, the Ivory Coast, and the recently unified nation of Tonin, with support from the rest of ECOWAS. Feeling that their nomadic homelands are under danger by the Sahel Confederacy, the local Tuareg population makes calls to the Algerian government to help secure their homelands in Mali and Niger. Algeria agrees and begins its own invasion. To open up the war, Algerian commandos parachute and take airfields at Teslit, Burum, Timbuktu, Arlit, and Agadez. Simultaneously, a ground invasion starts from southern Algeria to secure the territory in between the airfields and reinforce the Algerian commandos. Tuareg forces take remote locations in the Sahara Desert to help protect the flanks of the main attack. Meanwhile, ECOWAS forces push deep into Mali and Burkina Faso, taking the capitals of Bamako and Ouagadougou. The Algerians secure the northern banks of the Niger River and make a press to take Niamey. As Niamey falls, the few remaining forces of the Sahel Confederacy lay down their arms and peace is achieved. At a peace conference in Addis Ababa, the victors divide the spoils. Senegal gains everything north of the Niger River to Lake Debo. The Ivory Coast receives all the remaining areas south of the Niger River up to the western boundary of the Sahel Reserve and west of the White Volta. Tonin takes everything east of the White Volta, south of the northern boundary of the Sahel Reserve, and west of the Niger River. Algeria takes the rest of Mali and Niger and turns them into a puppet state called the Republic of Azawad. Following the conclusion of the Sahel Crisis, Algeria begins to expand its influence in the region. This is primarily felt in the Sahrawi Republic, as Algeria increases its support in the fledgling nation. Meanwhile, this begins to lead to tensions with Mauritania and Morocco, as both nations have their own interests in the region. Algeria shifts from financial and diplomatic support to include military training and armament, as both Mauritania and Morocco become more belligerent towards Algeria and the Sahrawi Republic. As Morocco and Mauritania begin to mobilize their armies, Algeria and the Sahrawi Republic announce an alliance and launch a preemptive surprise attack on Morocco and Mauritania. Utilizing Algerian planes and missile systems, Algeria launches a successful attack that knocks out key Moroccan infrastructure, including air bases, anti-air batteries, and several important communication systems. This hinders Morocco's early ability to counterattack or begin an effective defense. With Algerian artillery for support, Sahrawi troops capture the towns of Zourat and Attar to control much of the territory in the north of Mauritania. A secondary force sweeps the sand berm and takes the city of Nouadhibou on the coast. Simultaneously, Algerian troops push into eastern Morocco and take the cities of Oujda and Nador. They continue their advance westward and take Fez, but the Moroccan armed forces finally put an effective defense in front of Meknes. Afraid that the initiative will be lost, Algerian forces make an advance to take Tetouan and begin the siege of Tangier. Sahrawi forces push north along the Atlantic coast to take Dakhla and Layoun. Back in Mauritania, an Algerian motorized infantry brigade moves to help in the advance on the capital of Nouakchott. They take the city and Mauritania capitulates. Back in the north, Algerian forces attack north into southern Morocco and take the cities of Guelman and Agadir. They push on to take Marrakesh and Safi before being held short of Casablanca. The Algerian advance grinds to a halt, and the next several months are spent consolidating front lines and taking rural towns to secure supply lines. Tangier falls to Algeria, and the Algerian army is able to finally break the stalemate east of Meknes to take the city. The Algerian military rapidly pushes on and enters the capital city of Rabat from the north and east. The Moroccan government moves to Casablanca, but this demoralizes the defenders in Rabat, causing many to surrender. As Moroccan troops surrender the capital, the entire line collapses and Morocco capitulates. Algeria and the Sahrawi Republic meet in Algiers to determine the post-war landscape. The Sahrawi Republic gains all of its territory from Morocco, as well as parts of Morocco south of the Drâa River and the region around Levrier Bay in Mauritania. Algeria directly annexes the rest of both Mauritania and Morocco. Decades after the end of the wars in the Western Sahara, the people of the Sahrawi Republic clamor to be annexed by Algeria. Algeria soon peacefully annexes them and moves to formally annex the republics of Tripolitania and Azawad, making a new nation, the Islamic Democratic Republic of the Sahara, also known as the Republic of the Sahara. And that about does it for Algeria. We've turned Algeria from a regional power in North Africa into an economically and militarily great power. I hope you all enjoyed this scenario. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel. liking the video, and leaving a comment. Those things really help the channel in a big way, and I appreciate your support. Anyways, I'll see you next time as we do another nation in Empires A to Z.